Hello and welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Monday, October 2nd. Hope you're having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday. It is a Monday podcast today, coming off a full weekend loaded with a lot of football on. You had college football on Saturday and obviously another packed day of NFL yesterday and tonight. If you're a New York Giants fan, you're fired up as it is a massive Week 4 matchup, primetime matchup, Monday night, Giants-Seahawks at MetLife Stadium. The Giants look to get a very important second win on the season, as if they fall tonight, it could get ugly as their schedule does not get any easier the rest of the way coming up against some really tough AFC East opponents that the Giants will have in store. So we'll see what that brings tonight. Last night on primetime, it was just a really difficult, tough pill to swallow if you're a Jet fan today, as the New York Jets lose 23-20, a game that you went in with no expectations really, and you come out of it frustrated, you come out of it, just a little bit of a heartbreaking loss. Any of those words you want to describe, you're proud of the team, you're proud of the way they fought, but it's just one of those games where there was a couple missed opportunities, definitely some questionable penalties. We'll break it all down in today's podcast. But a game that the New York Jets, you walk away, and yes, they competed, and there was a lot of great signs, especially from Zach Wilson. But you're a Jet fan yesterday, and the bottom line is you're waking up, you're 1-3, and you're entering a week, game coming up against a winnable Broncos team, but it's a must-win still. And that's the end of the day. It's a business. You lost, you're 1-3, and you got to take care of business coming up. But if this Jet team continues to play this way, this could be the start of maybe a little bit of a run here, and we'll break it all down in today's podcast. We'll start with that. We'll also get to some of the other biggest games in the NFL and college football over the weekend. We'll also get you set up for Giants-Seahawks tonight, Monday Night Football, as the New York Giants enter a pivotal matchup on primetime. They look to not embarrass themselves for the third time this season on primetime. They've gotten crushed all three times. Lost on a Sunday night to open up the season. Lost on Thursday night, got blown out. Although that was less disappointing than the Monday night loss, because the Monday night loss, they went into that game with a legitimate chance to win. Week 1, all those things. Thursday night, they were beat up. It's the Niners. It's the road. They were out west. There was some built-in excuses there. Not trying to make excuses, but I'm just saying that wasn't as bad of a blowout as losing 40-0 in your home building on opening night. But this is a big one. Monday night, prime time, a Seahawks team that, if the Giants play up to their ability, if they play as what people expected them to be, they should be able to win this game. Even dealing with some of the injuries, they should be able to find a way to squeak this out. We'll break it down. We'll get into it later on if the Giants can pull this one out tonight out at MetLife Stadium. But we'll start today with the Jets. And I'll start with this. You go into last night's game as a Jet fan, and I talked about this on my recap show yesterday on In the Trench with Gang Green, my instant reaction I did right after the game. If you want to check that out, definitely go do so. Appreciate all the support as always. But you went into this game last night as a New York Jet fan, and you really had no expectations. Every Sunday, I always say it. You get up on Sunday, you're fired up for the games. Even if your team's not great, football Sundays are always great whenever your team plays. It's always fun. You always spend an hour or two before the game talking yourself into a victory for your team. All Sunday long, you're like, oh, Jets aren't winning. All week long, all the attention has been on Kansas City. And I'll admit, a lot of times I go into, games with the Jets, and I'm, super nervous. My heart's racing. I'm super nervous for the game. Last night, you kind of went into it, and as a Jet fan, you were kind of just, hoping for the best, expecting the worst, because there really was no expectations. You wanted to see Zach Wilson go out there and just let it rip. You wanted to see him go out there and take chances. You wanted to see them run a little bit of these trick plays. You wanted to see them do things that they haven't done before, because they were massive underdogs at home with the entire NFL landscape all focused on Kansas City. And the way this game started, I thought for a second there they might have to move the game to Comedy Central, because the Chiefs started this game exactly the way we would expect them to start, where they had the 2 long touchdowns and a field goal, and it was 17-0 in a blink of an eye. I think at one point the Chiefs had 220 yards of offense to the Jets' 20 yards of offense, or something crazy like that. The Chiefs dominated the first quarter. And you went into that second quarter When you fell down 17-0 as a Jet fan, you're saying to yourself, man, just find a way to show up. When it was 17-0, this game had ghost game. This game had 42-3 classic Jets blowout primetime loss written all over. Because let's be honest here, we've seen the Jets so many times on primetime get blown out. You get absolutely destroyed. And we've seen a lot of embarrassing moments on primetime. And it seemed like that was where this game was headed. It was 17-0. Chiefs were cruising. 2 long touchdowns by the backup tight end and Isaiah Pacheco with a 48-yard rushing touchdown. And it was like, man, this is terrible. Just, you hope that they don't put up 50 on us. That's really the thought that was going through your mind. And you've got to give this team so much credit for fighting and competing and not letting that get to their head on primetime, national television, all the Chiefs fans that were there, all the attention that was there, not letting it get to them and able to outscore the Chiefs the rest of the game 20-6 after that. 17-0, the Jets outscored the Chiefs 20-6 the rest of the game and fell 23-20, which was obviously devastating. Now, we'll get into some of the individual performance here in a second, but I'll start with the late game just disappointment, the late game frustration, and this is what still has me today so angry, so just devastated, so frustrated, whatever word you want to use, because you continue to play back in your mind. Now, I'm not a fan that's going to sit here and blame games on the refs. I just don't do it, because I always think, the refs always get their nose into things, but I always say there's always other opportunities for teams to make plays. Like if the refs, the refs are always going to make bad calls. Ultimately the game, it stinks when the refs have to get their nose into it, especially like a good game last night where it's on prime time. Really surprisingly was a good game with the way it started. And, you were thinking, to have the refs always get their nose into things, it stinks. But the Jets did miss some opportunities. I mean, and that's what's unfortunate about all this. They had some missed opportunities last night. I mean, you had the Conklin touchdown drop. You had a Michael Carter drop. There was a couple of drops. Zach was great last night. I'm not going to kill him for it, but he did have that fumble. They were driving. He did have that fumble. You had the 2 third down and 20 conversions. Yes, there was penalties. We'll get to those in a second, but there's still 3rd down and 20-plus conversions. You had the rough start, too. Like, they started slow. If the Jets would have came out, and you got to give them credit for adjusting. Again, this game easily could have been 31-0 at halftime with the way it was going. With the way, they were able to adjust, but they did get off to a slow start. If they came out with a little bit more energy, if they had an answer for the Chiefs offense right away, you maybe look back at this game and say, Jets win by 10. Falling down 17-0 and having to climb your way back the rest of the way is tough. Now, I do think the Jets were the better football team, but they put themselves behind early. So there was a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. There was also some penalties on the Jets. I mean, I go back to the Connor McGovern penalty. After the big Breece Hall 43-yard run, you get a first down screenplay to C.J. Uzomah, and you had an illegal man downfield, and it killed the drive. Because then the Jets went 3 and out after it was 1st and 15. They took themselves out of field goal range, and that was the end of it. They came up on a drive that could have easily ended in a touchdown with Breece Hall if he made that one-man miss. It ended in no points. And that to me was, that to me stunk because it was rough. And, look, also, too, I mean, they scored a touchdown to start the half, but then the final 3 drives were punt, fumble. So there was a lot of things that the Jets in this game could have done better. When you're going up against Kansas City, you can't make those mistakes. You can't have those penalties. I'm not talking about the penalties late in the game. I'm talking about the Connor McGovern penalty. I'm talking about the drops. You had the almost Garrett Wilson touchdown. I mean, that was almost a touchdown. Just a little less on it, and Garrett Wilson's got that. You're talking about the Tyler Conklin dropped. Greg Zuerlein, he missed the field goal as well. So there was a lot of missed opportunities with the Jets. And that's what makes it frustrating is the Jets were the better team for a good portion of this game, and if those opportunities were converted, or at least half of them were converted, the Jets could have easily walked out of this game 27-23, 31-23. They easily could have. Because if you think about it, they left 10 points on the board with the Greg and the Tyler Conklin touchdown. So that's 10 points, plus the penalties that killed drives that potentially could have resulted in more points. And that's what stinks, is you're playing the what-if game in your head today. What if this happened? What if that happens? And I hate doing that as a sports fan because it just eats away at you. But I got to get to the penalties. They were ridiculous. The Sauce Gardner penalty, look, you want to call that a pass interference, fine. That's not even the play that I'm frustrated about. To me, I think it was a little ticky-tack. I mean, there was contact there. But again, 3rd down and 20. late in the game. It's a close game, prime time. Like, all things considered, let them play. It wasn't like he was grabbing, it wasn't like he had his arm, his arm tangled around him, or he was grabbing his arm and tugging him backwards. Like, he did have a little bit of a grab on his shoulder, but it wasn't like he was hugging the guy. So, look, I'm not surprised they called it, because that's just the way the NFL is these days. They call a lot of ticky-tacky stuff. That's just what it is. We've seen it with the pass interference penalties. Or not pass interference, I apologize. Roughing the passer. I mean, a lot of times guys will hit the quarterback, it'll be a clean hit, and for some reason they say it's a roughing the passer. The NFL now has turned into a much more ticky-tacky league at times, and it's unfortunate the refs always feel the need to get their nose into everything late, because it ruins a great game. They got their nose into the Super Bowl last year. Yeah, that penalty against the Eagles that gave the Chiefs an automatic first down, and then they obviously ended up kicking the field goal and all that stuff. Like, gave the Eagles no time. Like, they got their nose into a Super Bowl. They always do. But that's not even the frustrating part. The frustrating part was the holding on Jermaine Johnson on that running play. There was a clear holding on Jermaine Johnson. The guy had him. Jermaine Johnson was trying to signal to the ref. He was holding him. He still might be holding him. He still might be out there. I don't know if he traveled back with the team on the team plane. He still might be holding him right now. And the fact that the refs were staring right at him, two guys in the area staring right at that play and didn't call a flag, to me, was unacceptable. And that is what eats away at me today, because that was a clear penalty. That was an obvious penalty that the refs missed, and they called a much ticky-tackier penalty on Sauce. Like, the Sauce penalty could go either way. Let's be honest here. I know the NFL, I think, officially ruled they made the right call. Of course they did, because the refs stink. But that Jermaine Johnson call was brutal. A brutal missed call. And it affected the play way more than, the Sauce play, because the Sauce play, and again, there's two different plays, because the Patrick Mahomes play, the holding on Jermaine Johnson, that was the play where he ran for 20 yards, and then there was the legal hands in the face. But the Sauce play was even more frustrating, because the ball wasn't even catchable. It wasn't catchable. Mahomes threw it under, like, he underthrew him. And that's what's frustrating me too. Like, you can have a pass interference, but if the ball's not catchable, it's not a pass interference penalty. And another thing this isn't anything that, look, the timing of the flag throw doesn't matter, but you could just tell the refs. And I don't want to sit here and be a conspiracy theorist and have, a tin hat on and be like, I'm one of those people with the aliens and sit here and be a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to do that, but all this Taylor Swift nonsense. The Jets intercept the ball. The ref with the flag, double pumped. He went to go throw it, and he didn't throw it, and then he saw Michael Carter pick it off, and then he threw it. I mean, I don't want to sit here and be a conspiracy theorist, but you can't tell me, if you're going to throw it, throw it. Why wait till he intercepts it and then throw the flag? That was ridiculous. If you're going to throw the flag, throw the flag. Don't wait until there's a change of momentum and then throw it. And not call a clear hold on the other side of the field. That was brutal on so many levels. And then it's a bad look, too, for the NFL. Because, again, I'm kind of ranting here. I got to get this out of the way. We'll get to the X's and O's and, the stats and stuff here in a second. And then we'll close things out and get to the rest of the games. But it's a bad look for the NFL. All their social media stuff today, all about Taylor Swift. The Chiefs are 2-0 as Swifties. Again, don't want to act like a conspiracy theorist, but you can't tell me the NFL and these refs tilted this game a little bit towards the Chiefs side. Again, not blaming the game on the refs, but you can't sit here and tell me with a straight face that the refs didn't have that there was that little bit of a tilt towards Kansas City. The Jets last night played a very good football game, and they should have won. And it's very disappointing that they didn't. And it's a bad look for the NFL that they bought into all this Taylor Swift nonsense. All these Taylor Swift fans going to the game have no clue what in the world they're even watching. And the NFL kind of stooped down to that level. Again, I don't want to sit here and blame the game on the refs, but there was a lot of controversial moments. The Jets did miss opportunities. There were some killer penalties that the Jets actually did commit that were the right calls. There was obviously some drop passes and some things like that. Definitely. No doubt about it. And there were those 2 stall drives in the second half where they had to punt 2 times in a row. They weren't able to get much going. No doubt about it. And again, I agree. And there was also that slow start. Falling down 17-0 is tough. Maybe if the Jets came out with a little bit more fire early on and they didn't wait till 17-0, maybe we walk away. The Jets do have to clean things up, but they played a really good game, and they were the better football team. And Patrick Mahomes got outplayed, or I should say it this way. Zach Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and I got to give you that stat. So Zach Wilson is the only opposing quarterback to have more completions, passing yards, touchdowns, and fewer interceptions than Patrick Mahomes in Mahomes' start. In a Mahomes start in his college or pro career out of 127 total starts in the postseason. So pretty much what this stat is, to break it down, Zach Wilson is the only guy in Mahomes' career to actually go out there and outplay him from every standpoint. Completions, picks, to yards, all that stuff, to touchdowns. Zach Wilson was the better player on the field last night. And I'm so proud of him because we've talked about Zach and we've crushed him a lot. We've crushed Zach a lot. And again, I've always said this as a Jet fan. The ultimate thing I want to always do, like, I want all these videos that I've done, my podcasts that I've done, all these Jet fans, all these tweets, I would love for them to go pop up on the Old Takes Exposed Twitter accounts, like that account I would love that. We all want to be wrong. We all want to be wrong about Zach Wilson in terms of everybody saying that he's no good. We all hope that this is a start. Last night he was great. And the accountability he took after the game, although I don't think he was, let me make this clear. I'm happy he took accountability, but we did not lose that game for Zach Wilson. So although I think him saying that he blew the game, I don't agree with that because he didn't blow the game. He actually was a big reason why we easily could have won that game. If the Jets win that game last night, it's probably because of Zach Wilson. Because let's be honest here. If those penalties aren't called, and this is still something else that's eating away at me, is the Jets pick that ball off. They give the ball back with Zach Wilson with about 3 minutes left in good field position. Jets go down there and score. We're probably talking about a victory today. Zach Wilson deserved one more chance to go down and lead that offense for a game-winning drive against the defending Super Bowl champions. And it's a shame that he didn't get that chance, but unfortunately missed calls, some non-stops, all those things accumulated into that. But he was great last night. And I'll read you two stat lines. First one, 18 of 30, 203 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 63.3 rating. That was the first stat line. This is the second one. 28 of 39, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 105.2 rating. That 2-touchdown, 245 performance was Zach Wilson. The other one was Mahomes. He outplayed Mahomes last night on a national stage on Sunday Night Football, where a lot of people were saying that could be the last game he starts as a New York Jet. And that was a reality going in. But coming out of it, man, he proved a lot of us wrong. And you got to give some credit to Hackett as well. Because he adjusted things. We talked about letting it rip. And the Jets better not change. They better go out there next week against Denver, mile high, air it out. I like the jet sweep. I like the flea flicker attempt. I know it didn't work, but I like that they were trying. I like that they, had a set of balls on them to go out there and make those plays, try those plays. Run the play action. Just scheme guys open. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands. Garrett Wilson last night had 9 catches on 14 targets. I think that's the most catches he had since Zach Wilson has taken over. Aaron and out to Lazard. Beautiful play by both the guys. A little underthrown. Lazard made a great play to come back on it and catch it. A lot of good from this Jets offense last night. Spread the ball around to 10 different guys. Got all 3 tight ends involved. Jeremy Ruckert was great last night. The running backs, if I had a complaint for this offense, it would be Dalvin Cook. He does not look the same. He does not have the same burst. He is slow. Michael Carter, I think, deserves more opportunities than him. I would even activate Izzy. I don't think you cut Cook. You're not going to do that. But I would start and try and scale back some of the carries. They only ran the ball 16 times last night for 108 yards. But again, that's what I was saying. The Jets threw the ball 39 times last night. That's what they wanted to do. And even when things early on in the game weren't working, they threw the ball 3 times on the first drive. And even that it failed, and again, I was frustrated that it didn't work, but it was at least good to see that they aired it out. They went into this game with a clear message to Zach Wilson. Just go out there, lay it all on the line. It's a good chance this might be your last start. Go out there and do it. And he aired it out, and they played to his strengths yesterday. And I'm not going to sit here and say put him in Canton. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the next great thing because he's got to do this consistently. But this was by far, I think, the best Zach Wilson start I've ever seen. Now, I think you can maybe make an argument that start 2 years ago, his rookie year against Tampa, very similar game, by the way, where you went into these two games and you saw the Jets would get crushed. Because, again, Buccaneers, that was the year with Brady. Brady always beats the Jets. Like, that was the year where we all thought as Jet fans, or that was the game we all thought as Jet fans, like, we're going to get crushed. Same thing with this game. But Zach stepped up in both those games against two really good teams. Got to give him a lot of credit. Utilize his legs on that 1-2 point conversion. Sure, again, the fumbled snap, it stinks, but it's not the reason the Jets lost. It was good to see him take accountability. It was good to see he actually spoke in front of the team. The guys around him are rallying around him. I think this was a big win. I think this was a big win-over game for the locker room for Zach. Even though they lost, I think he gained a lot of respect in this locker room with the way he went out there on a national stage and did what he did. I mean, he was the best quarterback on the field, and Patrick Mahomes played on that field last night. That I think that kind of sums it up. He was the best quarterback on that field, and the opposing quarterback was Patrick Mahomes. And that's crazy. Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, will go down as probably one of the greatest of all time. Zach Wilson outplayed him last night, and he was the first quarterback to completely outplay him in just about every category. That was huge, and I hope that continues. I hope this is the start of a really good run for Zach Wilson. You're 4 weeks in, you're 1-3. That's the tough reality of it. But if Zach continues to play like this, the Jets can win a lot more games. You're 4 weeks in, you're one quarter into the season. You've got a lot more football left to be played. And after the bye week, the schedule loosens up a little bit. The Jets last night, again, remember, they're playing the Chiefs. If they play like this against Denver, they win this game. They win next week. If Zach goes out there and plays like this against Denver, goes 240, 2-3 touchdowns, they win. I'll tell you what, the Eagles, they're not as good as the record shows. I'm not saying the Jets are going to go beat Philly, but if Zach continues to play like this, now I'm not saying he's going to go out there every week and dominate like this. Sure, there's going to be weeks, as always, that teams are going to find answers for you, but the Jets this was probably the best the Jets have looked on offense all season, even including the week one win over the Bills. This is the smoothest Zach has looked. They put him out. They rolled him out. They didn't have him thinking much. It wasn't those pocket passes. It was kind of just roll out, just go out there, be free. And I hope that the coaching staff continues to do that. Again, we've always talked about this with Zach. He's better when he's better when he's not thinking. He's better than when he's not thinking. When he's thinking too much in the pocket, it doesn't work for him. When he's out on the run, when he's airing it out, I think he's better with that too because he knows it's the strength of his game. He knows his arm strength is a big reason why he was the number 2 overall pick. And the Jets used that last night. Got to give him a lot of credit, and I got to give credit too. Two guys that got crushed a lot this season, rightfully so, Hackett and Zach, they deserve a lot of credit. And they go into Denver next week. This is a game we've all had circled on our calendars, and especially now because this is a massive game. Again, as much as we walk out here with a lot of moral victories, and we're all frustrated that they lost, and there was a lot of missed opportunities, but they played a good football game last night. They did a lot of good things last night. There was a lot of positives. Now, it's about tuning up those fine details. It's about catching that ball in the end zone. Conklin, right? Making the play. Michael Carter dropping that play on 2nd down and 7. It's about not having that penalty after a big 43-yard run on McGovern. It's the little things now. It's the attention to detail. That's now what you got to fix. You do that, you go into Denver, beat up a good team. Or beat up a team that isn't great. Now, again, these mistakes are going to be a lot more, they're going to be a lot more, you're going to be able to notice them a lot more because you kind of have to play a mistake-free game against Kansas City. I'm not trying to doubt Denver, but you can get away with some more mistakes against Denver. Getting away with mistakes against Kansas City, it's tough. But again, if the Jets go out there and play like this next week, I think the defense, you got to start better, obviously. You can't fall 17-0 down next week. You just can't do that. They got to start better, no doubt about it. But if Zach goes out there and plays like this the rest of the way, if he does this, just hypothetical, if he does this the rest of the season, every game he goes out there and gives us a similar stat line like this, the Jets are a playoff team. Even with this 1-3 start, they're a playoff team. So, that's on offense. Defensively, again, you had the one Mosley missed interception. You did have an Ashton Davis interception. Mosley did get another opportunity for an interception. Quincy Williams, he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Even through the rough parts of this season, he's been the biggest bright spot, I think, on this team. He's been great. Last night was, again, good in coverage. I mean, he's been, and again, as much a lot of criticism from Douglas, he's been a great find for Douglas. Douglas, I know a lot of us criticize his free agent stuff, but he's hit on a lot of these under-the-radar guys. He was a guy in waivers, got cut by Jacksonville. They picked him up, signed an extension in the offseason. He's actually gotten better since getting paid. Quincy Williams has been great. He's been great, and he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. He is playing at a Pro Bowl level right now. By far in for, if he continues this, a career year in many different categories. He had 2 pass defended, 2 quarterback hit, and 2 tackles for loss, 13 tackles total. Quinton Williams and Quentin Jefferson had a half a sack. They were able to get 9 quarterback hits on Mahomes. 3 of them came from John Franklin Myers. They were able to get 4 tackles for loss, only 1 sack. That was obviously on the half a sack by Quinton, half a sack by Quentin Jefferson. Thought they were able to get more pressure at times. I would still like to maybe see a little bit more blitzes. But again, this defense, early on, it was like 85 Bears. This defense was a joke early on. But after that, again, after the 17-0 start, Jets outscored them 20-6 the rest of the way. The touchdown, the defense did not allow a touchdown the rest of the game after that first quarter. So defense played well after that first quarter. Again, it's about starting fast now. It's about the little things, a little attention to detail now. It's about starting fast. It's about not having those killer penalties. It's about, getting off the field, catching the ball in 2nd and 7. Now it's up to that little stuff. Because now it seems like if Zach continues to do this, the Jets may have found something with him. Again, it's one game, but it's a big game. Zach did this against the Kansas City Chiefs. This isn't like he went out there against the Chicago Bears and threw for 300 yards. Or, I don't know, it's not a terrible team. Panthers are 0-4. Panthers. Team like that. A really bad team. He went out there against a team that is competing for a top spot in the AFC and played like that and outplayed Mahomes. So, look, tough loss, obviously. No doubt about it. It's frustrating just the way it ended. I still play the what if as if Zach was able to get one more chance with about 3 minutes left. The fact that the Chiefs had the ball for the final 6 to 7 minutes of that game to me was just terrible on so many levels from the refs down. It just, I don't know. I'm not going to, it's just, you guys know how I feel. I mean, I'm not going to blame the games on the refs, but to sit here and say the refs were bad is an understatement. I mean, they were horrible. And I think there does have to be, I'm not saying you got to run a full-on investigation, but there's got to be a little bit of a wake-up call to the NFL. Like, last night, everybody saw it on stage. There's a lot of people in the NFL world not saying the game was rigged, not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but were those flags really necessary? Is it crazy? How are you calling those flags on the Jets and then missing a clear holding penalty on the Chiefs? And it is what it is. But if I can leave you with a positive, Jet fans, for all those that are frustrated today, kind of just difficult loss to get over. You got a winnable game next week, you can get to 2-3. And then you have a home game the week after that against an Eagles team that, look, they're 4-0, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but they haven't been the Eagles team of last year. So, get the win next week. But you have to win this week. You have to win. And that's clear. You got to beat Denver, especially now. And I know they enter this game as 2.5-point underdogs or 2-point underdogs. It was 2.5 earlier today. Now it's 2. They are underdogs, but they got to come away with a win. Like, they're the better team than Denver. They're better than Denver, especially if they play like this. That's just the way it is. So, last road trip for a while for the Jets. They will face the Broncos this week, and then they won't get out of town again until November 12th because they'll be with the Eagles at home. Then it's a bye week, and then it's the Giants, a road game, but at MetLife, and then they're home against the Chargers. Next time the Jets after this week are on the road, it's Vegas. Or actually on the road, not against the Giants, Vegas. So this was a year the Jets had 10 games at MetLife. All right, so that'll do it for the Jet game. We get into some of the NFL games yesterday. Bills with a huge state-winning win over the Dolphins. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs lead the way. They were brilliant yesterday. Bills look good. They look really good. After that Monday night loss to the Jets, they've really turned things around. 38-10 over the Raiders, 37-3 over the Commanders, 48-20 over the Dolphins. So they have absolutely dominated their last 3 games. I'll tell you what, I think the Bills have looked like the best team in the AFC. I'll tell you right now. I think they've looked better than Kansas City, and I think obviously they've beaten the Dolphins. I know when you look at the rest of the AFC, I know Ravens are 3-1. The Bengals have been terrible. The Chargers are 2-2 barely. I don't know what Brandon Staley's doing over that. I don't know how he has a job. That guy is so lucky that the Chargers have Justin Herbert. Without Justin Herbert, he might be the worst coach in football. He really might be. It's crazy what a quarterback can do for a franchise. It's just, see what Herbert's doing, how he could still find ways to win game. If the Chargers had a good coach, that team would easily be a team that could be the best team in the AFC. They've got the talent. They don't have a coach. Everything's so hard for them to pull out games like that. It's just the coaching's just not good. So that's just a kind of an AFC update there. But as I mentioned, it's just Bills they look great. I mean, I think this is the best the Bills have looked in a year. I don't think they looked this good last year. Yesterday, against the Dolphins, we expected it to be a track meet. It kind of was. If you took the over in the game, you won some money. But 48 points, they blew them out. Diggs with a huge game. Obviously, they lost Tre'Davious White, which is a tough loss. Tough loss, too, just as an NFL fan. You feel for guys like that. Had the torn ACL, came all the way back, came back last season, wasn't fully ready, was still kind of healing, was still kind of recovering, comes into this year, finally back to the player he was, or feels like he was, and an anterior Achilles, it's awful. And especially as a Jet fan, you know how Bills fans feel today. Losing one of your better players, it stinks. And it's awful, especially you feel for him, too. With all the recovery he had to go through last year or 2 years ago, at this age, to have to come back and go through a whole nother recovery, and he might miss, a chunk of next season. Although nowadays, how they do the Achilles injury, Rodgers is practically walking at this point if you saw him on the sidelines yesterday. But you hope Trey White can come back because he's a really good player when he's healthy. He's one of the better corners in football when he's out there and when he's healthy, and you hope he can get back to near that form after the Achilles injury that he suffered yesterday. Some of the other games, I didn't think the 4 o'clock games were all that good. Cowboys all over the New England. Niners all over Arizona. And the Chargers over the Raiders. For the most part, the Chargers are winning that game until late. Titans all over the Bengals. Bengals are brutal. They stink right now. There's no other way to put it. They stink. I was wrong about them. I thought, one of these games would be a game where they come out and dominate. But that's not the case. They got a massive game coming up next week against Arizona. I know you might say, it's Arizona. But if the Bengals, let's just say, lose that game, they could be in for a really, really rough go. Because if they lose that game and fall to 1-4, they've got Seattle, San Francisco on the road, and in Buffalo. A good chance they could easily lose all 3 of those games. They got to beat Arizona next week. They have to. That's a must-win. You lose that game, I don't want to get too crazy, but they could be looking at 1-7, 2-6. That's how bad it could get. They got to win next week and find a way to get some sort of positive momentum because they stink right now. And I know that, Jamar Chase comments are definitely a little concerning. I don't know if there's anything boiling in that locker room, but it's not good. And if Burrow's really hurt, he's hurting the team. I know he's trying to play through it, but I think they have a better chance of if he's really hurting and that's affecting him, they got to figure something out. They do not look like they're breaking out anytime soon. They stink right now. They stink. Buccaneers all over the Saints. I said I was going to pick the Bucs on Friday, and I took the Saints, and I don't know why. I'm, kicking myself today for that. I went 10-5 on my game picks this week. Obviously tonight, try to get to 11-5. But if I would have predicted tonight's game, I would have been 12-4 for the 3rd week in a row, which kind of stinks. Texans over the Steelers. Matt Canada and the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to struggle on offense. C.J. Stroud is great. 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looks phenomenal. He looks great. I'm happy for the Texans. I really am. They built that thing up the right way. They got a lot of really good draft picks. D'Amico Ryans is an excellent coach. I'm happy for the Texans. I am. I was rooting for them going into this year, and I was hoping to see C.J. Stroud pan out because there was a lot of people that, again, it's only 4 games into his NFL career, but if he continues to do this, he looks really comfortable. He looks really good. And he's not it's not like he's beating good teams. Like he beat Jacksonville, or I should say he's beating good defenses. The Steelers have a solid defense. He went up against Jacksonville, a team that is probably it could easily be a playoff team. And he beat them, both those teams, by double scores, by multiple scores. So, gotta give a lot of credit to Houston. They they look great for having a rookie quarterback. They really do. And so does the Colts. I know they lost yesterday again, but Anthony Richardson looks good. Stroud and Richardson by far, so far look like the best out of that rookie class this year. Vikings over the Panthers, 21-13. Bryce Young wasn't exactly what the others were. It's rough. You see C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, all those guys go out there and play well, and Bryce Young's obviously, struggling a little bit, which is a little tough to see, but number 1 overall pick. A little bit more pressure. He's got to find a way to get it going. The Panthers are a sneaky 0-4. It's funny. You look at the Panthers and you don't think they're that bad, but they are a sneaky 0-4, and their schedule doesn't get any easier. They got the Lions coming up, then they got the Dolphins after that, and then they've got the Texans, who, the Texans are beating teams. So it's interesting. The Panthers right now are headed for a really rough season, it seems. I thought they'd be a lot more competitive. The offensive line, the run blocking doesn't seem great. Thielen's been all right. He just found a way to get some nice fantasy points. I know I put him at flex this week, got me 14 points, but the Panthers are kind of a quiet 0-4. Everyone's talking about the Bears, but the Panthers have had some struggles themselves. A little bit different with a rookie quarterback, other than the Bears, who a lot of people thought would take a jump this year and be a lot more competitive and maybe a year away from being a playoff team, but they've completely taken 10 steps backwards. So those are your NFL games. So again, just some of the biggest highlights over the weekend. That Cowboys win, the Jets should have beaten New England. New England stinks. They are not very good. They're not good at all. So these are my game picks. So over the weekend, went 10-5 on my NFL game picks. So overall in the season now, I am 42-21. Now tonight, I go for my 11th win this week, which would get me up to 43 on the season. So tonight's game, Giants, Seahawks. Giants 1-2, Seahawks 2-1, 8:15 ABC, ESPN. Seattle 2.5-point road favorites. The Giants are the home underdogs. So back-to-back nights, we got primetime football at MetLife Stadium, and both home teams are the home dogs. According to the ESPN's matchup predictor, they're giving the Seattle Seahawks a greater chance of winning. Sorry, got to load here. 56.3% chance for Seattle, and the Giants are given a 43.4% chance of winning, and that's according to ESPN Analytics, ESPN's matchup predictor. Over-under set at 46.5 for this game. Giants still a little bit banged up. Andrew Thomas, Barkley's listed as doubtful. They're banged up. They're missing some really key pieces on the offense. It seemed like it was a really big, rough week of practice for the Giants, specifically on defense, where Wink Martindale had them doing a ton of tackling drills, had to doing a lot of work because their tackling has been abysmal, to say the least, for the Giants. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out tonight. If they come out after a really tough week of practice, after a brutal just showing on Thursday night against the Niners, you get another primetime opportunity. You last played against the Niners like 11 days ago, whatever it is. That's the furthest night. You played Thursday night, now you got to wait all the way till Monday night. It is going to be interesting. I think the Seattle Seahawks might have to weather an early storm here, because it will be interesting to see how the Giants come out. They're well rested. They're very well rested. They played 11 days ago. They got a ton of break. They did have a very intense week of practice. It's going to be interesting if they come out and realize the magnitude of this game, because after this, they look at a schedule that includes Miami and Buffalo on the road. That is brutal. Miami and Buffalo on the road back-to-back. You lose this game, you could be staring at 1-5. So it could get really ugly. You win this game, all right, things look a lot better. Now you're still 2-3, but even if you lose those, you lose this game, it's going to get rough. It's going to get really rough. For the Giants, you're 2-2. I apologize. You're 2-2. And even if you come out of those Bills and the Dolphins games and you're 2-4, you have a winnable game after that against Commanders. Now, the Commanders have looked really good, have looked solid outside of the Bills game. They've looked good. I mean, they competed yesterday against the Eagles. They went into overtime. Probably could have went for 2. Riverboat Ron wasn't Riverboat Ron there. But if you get that game, you're 3-4 then. So this is a massive game. You cannot afford to fall to 1-5 on the season. You just can't. And if the Giants lose this game, there's a good chance they're probably headed in that direction. As much as, I feel like the Giants, with the week of practice they had, what seems like a very frustrated locker room, what seems like a coaching staff that is Very frustrating to me. They're still missing so many key pieces. They're still missing guys that make a huge impact. They were banged up last week. They're still banged up. It's out of their control. It stinks to have these injuries. I'm going to take Seattle here. I know they're on the road. It's just a tough spot for the Giants again because they're missing key pieces. They're missing key guys. And Seattle's a really solid team. Now, again, they should be on the level of the Giants, but with the Giants' injuries, the Seattle's the better team. So I'm going to take the Seahawks here on the road. I'm going to take the road favorites over the home underdogs. Give me Seattle 27-23 over the Giants. I have them covering the 2.5, and I'll take the over on the over-under of 46.5. Seattle gets the job done over the New York Giants tonight at MetLife Stadium. I'll take the Seahawks, and I'll look for my 11th win of the week and get to 43-21 on the season for my NFL game picks. Crazy. We're already 4 weeks into the NFL campaign, but here we are. Week 5 is next week. We're 1 quarter in to the 2023 NFL season, or just about, right? Four weeks in. Crazy that we're already 4 weeks into the season. As a Jet fan, it feels like you're 10 weeks into the season because of everything that's gone on. Pretty much every day, it seems like there's a new story. At least this week, the quarterback won't be a conversation. It will be in a good way. We won't be talking about the quarterback in a negative light this week, and that's a positive. Because for weeks now, we've had to talk all week, every day. Oh, should the Jets sign a veteran, this and that. This week, we won't have to worry about that. They got the veteran, and Zach Wilson played great, and he deserves the right to continue to go out there and let it rip. So that'll do it for the podcast here today. Stay tuned. More content coming your way. Giants, Seahawks tonight. College football over the weekend, obviously, as well. Colorado almost made that comeback against USC, which Duke should have beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame wanted them to win that game. They gifted them that game, and Duke said, no, we're okay. So that'll do it. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.